Hi friends, welcome to the Shabby Chic Farmhouse. Here we dive into a world of DIY and more, using our state-of-the-art laser to craft beautiful wood creations right from our shop here in Central Illinois. Our passion is to bring you fun and purposeful projects that you can create with your own hands. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced crafter, we offer painting techniques and tips to help you design custom and personalized home decor. Interested in any of our featured projects or craft boxes? Visit our website at www.theshabbychicfarmhouse.net to order and start your crafting journey. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to stay updated on our latest projects. Thanks for watching. Okay, friends, let's get into it. I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed crafting this. I really needed a paint craft night, and it was spot on with what I needed. So as with most projects that we get started with, we separate everything. Most of this project's going to be done in red, white, and blue, so we create piles of red, white, and blue. And then with the pinwheels, the top pieces, we're going to use those napkins and just lay your pieces down on top of the napkin, trace around it, and then cut it out. Cut the napkin out, and I did discover that the napkins are 2 layers, so I did start taking the layers art off and just using the 1 layer, because once I got the glue on it, I could kind of feel them separate underneath the glue kind of thing, if that makes sense. So I do recommend tearing the napkin into the 2 pieces. And so here I am tracing it out, and once I get them all cut out, then I start gluing them on, let them dry really well. They are going to be kind of ripply on top, but it's kind of one of those things you just need to trust the process. And like I said, I also put a layer of glue on top of these as well, and then the edges I just kind of glued down, and you can see from the pictures that it all worked out just fine. Okay, once we get all the napkins on the top pieces of our pinwheels, we just set them aside, like I said, let them get a good dry, and then paint the pinwheels. Now, I do want to say, if you don't want to use the napkins on your pinwheels, by all means, you don't have to. If you want to paint them, if you want to polka dot them, if you want to, do your own thing with them, that is completely fine. This is how I thought that they would look nice, and it just kind of gives us a little added something to craft with. But if you don't want to paint, don't want to do that, then you can paint them. So I painted each pinwheel red, white, and blue, and then the coordinated the sticks to go with it, the dowel rod, and then I painted the stands red, white, and blue. Again, you don't have to do this exactly like I do it. Create your own. I love to see how you guys create them. So just continue painting the pinwheels. Don't forget to use the painter's tape for those small pieces. Saves our hands and fingers. Um, a lot of times I still use my hands and fingers, but when I try to think about it, for the really small pieces, if I have several, I will use that painter's tape. Okay, we're gonna start putting the front top pieces onto these pinwheels. Now I will say that you're gonna wanna try to get those straight, lined up good with your bottom piece. And I put, what I learned was put one piece on and then go directly across from it, put that piece on, and then put your center circle in, because if you get all four pieces in there, sometimes it's hard to get that center circle in there, if that makes sense. You can see I learned this the hard way, but after this one, I did start doing one side and then the other side, put that circle in there so that I knew I had it center, and then put the other two pieces on. So the three pieces that create your base, the top two are going to have holes, and then the bottom one's going to be a solid piece. And I put a little bit of glue on the end of my dowel rod, and then I put it into them holes, and you just kind of have to screw it in there a little bit to make it, you want it to have that nice fit on things. And so that's how I did that. So if you want, whenever you get to that little star with the USA on it, I just grabbed an ink pen and kind of went over those score marks. It just gives it a little bit more defined characteristic about it. You don't have to, because you can still see it even without the ink pen. So now we're getting to the part where you're probably wondering, what in the heck are these three pieces for? So each windmill needs something to hold the top of that dowel rod. So what we're going to do is make a little sandwich with the two pieces that are shaped like the U. You're gonna glue those on first, or you can do this all separate and then attach it. But the two U shapes get glued together. Then the solid piece gets glued to one side of that. That's going to go on the back side of this and create a pocket to help hold the top of that dowel rod. And you can see here how that works out. Once that's, you want to make sure that this gets a good dry on it before you even try to put that dowel rod in it. But it does help. Whenever you go to put that dowel rod up in the top of the pinwheel, make sure you put a little bit of glue on it, and that'll all be glued together nice and solid. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on our birdhouse. So again, you're going to want to take all your pieces off, separate it into piles according to the colors that you'll paint them, red, white, blue. This one has some yellow. So with this one, all of the red and white stripes are going to come off. But it's very important that you keep them lined up whenever we go to put them back on. So I was very careful on how I took them off and made sure that they was laid out in the order that they needed to go back on, because the stars are going to fit down into them. And so as you can see, I kind of am careful with the way I take them off so that I can be sure that I get them back in the same order, while making sure that they are coordinating with the red and white stripes. So just a heads up to be careful on how you do that. If you mess up, it's just paint. You can let it dry and repaint it, so it's fixable. Okay, here we are putting it back together. Now, I recommend that you make sure you get this all laid out before you start gluing anything on. Make sure those stars are going to work right, because there's 3 stars there and one of them will not work very well. So I made sure that everything was going to line up very well before I started gluing anything. And whenever I started gluing them, I did obviously one piece at a time to ensure that they all still fit nice and snug together. Once I was sure I had a good fit on everything, I did not take it apart to put glue on it. I just simply slid it up far enough that I could start gluing. And then once I got a good amount of glue down on the base of it, then I started just kind of sliding those pieces down so that you don't want your glue there while you're trying to work with getting your pieces together. So this is what I found easiest to do. And now that our pinwheel tops have a good dry on them, I put some glue on it, like I said before, and just kind of screw it up into that, and it'll have a nice hold on it. And now you're ready to start putting your twine onto your birdhouses if you'd like. You can wait until you're completely finished with all your other projects, or however. One of the stars will be tied on, as well as just a bow is what I put on it. Okay, and now we are going to start with our hat with our flag and flowers. And so again, we're just going to take all of our pieces off, put them in piles according to the colors that we paint them, and start painting away. Now, whenever I am painting the centers of these flowers, I am not even thinking about trying to stay in all those lines. And in fact, my brush is not flat. You probably can't tell that here, but I am more stippling the paint on to so that your edges do have that, you don't want a straight edge on the centers of your flowers. That's not the way the score mark was. So I just stipple it on there and make my own way with it, honestly. So I feel like this hat might be a little bit more challenging than what we might be normally used to with our projects. But I personally like doing the detail work. So the hat with those straight lines, just keep your brush flat with that line, have a little bit of paint on it, offload it if you need to, and just straight down that line, okay? And whenever we get to the flag, same thing. Whenever we're doing the stripes, just keep your brush flat. Don't try to fill that whole line at the same time. Do the top and just follow that line, and then do the bottom and follow that line. Now, I will tell you that flag was a little bit tricky even for me, but trust the process. And what can happen is, like on the ends, you'll see I went completely over that line on the ends. And then I took that gray and went back in and cleaned up those detail work, okay? And the tight ends of it, you know me, I like to use the end of my paintbrush whenever I'm in a tight spot. So I used the end of that paintbrush and pulled the paint into those corners instead of trying to use the brush end of that paintbrush to stay in those tight corners. I use the other end of that brush, if that makes sense. You'll see how I do it. Okay, so now I put the flag aside. I put my red on and then I put my flag aside because that paint needs to get a good dry on it before you go in with that white. Each layer needs to have a good dry on it before you go in with another color. So I did the white and then I pushed it aside and start doing something else, and then I'll come back to it. It doesn't take it long to dry. Okay, so this is where I come in with my gray paint, and you can see I went over with my white paint, and so now I'm just going to clean those edges up all around the flagpole and inside the flag. And then whenever I go do the stars, I use the opposite end of that paintbrush again. I try to put a dot in the center of that star, and then I just pull the paint out to each of the edge with the tip of the end of that brush. Okay, let's go on to our birthday sign. So again, we're just going to separate all of our pieces and paint them according to the colors that we have them laid out in. Now, I did take some of the blue, I took white paint and added a little bit of blue in it. That's how I got that variegated color of blue on the flowers, and then that is what I'll also do here on the background of this sign. Okay, let's go on to making our earrings. I thought you guys would have that fun with these. They might be too big for some of you. I don't know. If you don't like them, maybe you can gift them to someone. I thought they would be fun for the upcoming holiday and such. So again, we're going to separate everything off in colors according to the colors. Now I painted my background red and white, so again you can paint yours however you want, but I will say whenever you want to graduate the two paint colors together, so you'll paint obviously one side red, one side blue. While it's still wet, you're going to take that detail brush, put it in just a little bit of water. You just want it damp. You don't really want it wet. And so you'll see me dip it into the water and then offload that water onto a baby wipe. So you really just want it damp. Again, paint is still wet. You're just going to take that damp detail brush and simply brush across it. That's going to blend those two paints together, and that's how you're going to get that variegated red and blue. And then I simply painted the tops of them white. The earring clasp, I did twist mine a little bit because it continually wanted to go sideways. So I did twist mine a little bit, but you're just going to pull that apart and then it's going to clasp together. And it's not going to go all the way through, but it should be secure enough that it's going to hold. So, and then the top piece is just going to glue on. So I hope you guys had fun with this. Like I said, I really enjoyed crafting this, and I hope that you guys do too. So thank you all again.